The silver ship appeared without warning above Earth's moon. It was bigger than anything humans had ever built, stretching nearly 10 miles from end to end. The surface gleamed like polished metal, covered in strange symbols that seemed to move when you looked at them too long. Captain Jake Morrison sat in the command chair of the Earth Defense Force ship Liberty, staring at the massive alien vessel on his main screen. His coffee had gone cold an hour ago, but he hadn't noticed. This was the moment humanity had wondered about for centuries. They were not alone. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission," said Lieutenant Sarah Kim from her station. Her voice was steady, but Jake could see her hands shaking slightly as she worked the controls. "Put it on screen," Jake ordered. The image that appeared made everyone on the bridge fall silent. The being speaking looked almost human, but wrong in subtle ways. Its skin was too pale, its eyes too large, and when it moved, it seemed to flow like water. When it spoke, the words came out in perfect English, but the voice sounded like it was coming from underwater. "Greetings, humans of Earth. I'm Ambassador Zexthara of the Colonian Empire, speaking for the Galactic Council of Civilized Worlds. We have watched your species for many of your years. The time has come for formal contact." Jake felt his heart racing. This was it. First contact with aliens. He stood up slowly, trying to look calm and in control. "I am Captain Jake Morrison, representing the Earth Defense Force and the people of Earth. We welcome this contact and hope for peaceful relations." The alien's large eyes seemed to study Jake for a long moment. Something flickered across its face that might have been concern, but it was hard to tell with such an alien expression. "Yes, peaceful relations. That is why we are here. Your species has developed rapidly, too rapidly for your own safety. We offer membership in our galactic community, with proper guidance and oversight to prevent unfortunate incidents." Jake frowned. The way the alien spoke made it sound like they were talking to children who had been playing with matches. "What kind of guidance?" Jake asked carefully. "Restrictions on dangerous technologies, limits on expansion beyond your home system, educational programs to help your species mature properly, standard procedures for all developing civilizations." Dr. Lisa Rodriguez, Earth's lead scientist for alien contact, stepped forward. She had been quiet during the exchange, but Jake could see she was thinking hard about something. "Ambassador, may I ask a question? You mentioned that our development has been too rapid. What do you mean by that?" The alien ambassador paused, and Jake thought he saw something like nervousness in those strange large eyes. "Your species has achieved in mere centuries what takes most civilizations thousands of years. This is unusual, concerning. The normal patterns of development suggest your rapid advancement is unsustainable and potentially dangerous." Lisa exchanged a glance with Jake. "Dangerous to whom?" There was another pause, longer this time. In the background, Jake could see other aliens moving around on their ship's bridge. They seemed to be having urgent conversations, though he couldn't hear what they were saying. "Dangerous to yourselves primarily," the ambassador finally said, "and potentially to the stability of our galactic community." Before anyone could respond, alarms started blaring throughout the Liberty. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Blake looked up from his console with a grim expression. "Sir, we've got a massive solar flare incoming. It's going to hit both ships in about 3 minutes. Electromagnetic pulse will knock out most systems." Jake felt his stomach drop. A solar flare now during first contact? The timing couldn't be worse. "Ambassador, we have an emergency situation. A solar flare is about to hit us. We need to prepare for system failures." On the screen, Jake could see panic spreading across the alien bridge. Crew members were running between stations, and their equipment was making sounds that clearly indicated distress. "This is impossible," the ambassador said, its calm demeanor cracking. "Our instruments showed no solar activity. Our technology should have predicted this." Jake looked at Ryan, who was already moving to the emergency stations. "Ryan, take us to backup systems. All non-essential equipment offline. Prepare for manual control." "Already on it, sir," Ryan called back, his hands flying over the controls. Switching to hardened systems in 30 seconds. The solar flare hit like an invisible hammer. The main lights went out and half the screens on the bridge went dark. Emergency lighting kicked in, bathing everything in a red glow. But the Liberty was still functioning. On the main screen, which was now running on backup power, they could see the alien ship. It was completely dark. No lights, no movement, nothing. "Their entire ship is dead," reported Lieutenant Kim, who had switched to manual instruments. "No power signatures at all." Ryan was already suiting up for emergency repairs. "Sir, I can get our main communications back online in about 10 minutes. The flare damaged their advanced systems, but our simpler equipment can handle it. Jake watched in amazement as his crew worked with calm efficiency. They had trained for this kind of emergency, but seeing them perform so well under pressure filled him with pride. 20 minutes later, main power was restored to the Liberty. The alien ship was just beginning to show signs of life again. When communications were re-established, Ambassador Zex Thera appeared on screen again, but this time the alien looked genuinely shaken. "How is your ship still functioning?" the ambassador asked, and Jake could hear disbelief in the watery voice. "Emergency procedures," Jake explained simply. "We always prepare for system failures. When technology breaks down, we switch to manual backup systems. But your technology is so primitive compared to ours. Our systems are far more advanced, more efficient, and more fragile, apparently," Dr. Rodriguez said quietly. The ambassador stared at her for a long moment. "This is exactly what concerns us about your species. You adapt to impossible situations as if they were merely inconvenient. This is not normal behavior for a civilized species." Jake felt confused. "You're concerned because we're adaptable?" No other species in the Galactic Council would have maintained function during such an event. They would have waited for the crisis to pass, then called for assistance. Your immediate response to work around the problem instead of accepting the limitation, this is why your species requires guidance. The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the Bridge of the Liberty in stunned silence. Dr. Rodriguez was the first to speak. "Did that alien just say we're dangerous because we don't give up when things go wrong?" Jake stared at the now empty screen, a cold feeling growing in his stomach. "I think they're afraid of us, not because we're aggressive, but because we solve problems instead of accepting them." That night in his private quarters, Jake filed his report to Earth Command. As he wrote, he couldn't shake the feeling that this first contact had revealed something important about humanity, something that apparently made the rest of the galaxy very nervous indeed. 3 months had passed since the solar flare incident, and the aliens had been strangely quiet. Then, without warning, Ambassador Zex Thera contacted Earth again. This time the message was different. "The Galactic Council has decided to offer your species a series of integration assessments," the ambassador announced from the main screen in the Earth Defense Force headquarters. "These are standard tests given to all developing civilizations to determine their readiness for galactic citizenship." General Patricia Hayes, the new head of Earth's alien relations, listened carefully. Something about the way the ambassador spoke made her suspicious. "What kind of tests?" she asked. "Intellectual challenges, military scenarios, and technological demonstrations. Simple evaluations to understand your species' capabilities and limitations." Dr. Kevin Park was working late in his small office at MIT when the first test arrived. The aliens had transmitted a mathematical problem that they claimed had stumped the greatest minds in the galaxy for over 2,000 years. It was a complex theorem involving quantum mechanics and dimensional mathematics. Kevin stared at the problem for hours, scratching his head. The aliens had offered to provide their most advanced quantum computers to help solve it, but something about that felt wrong to him. If the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy couldn't solve this problem with their best technology, why would their computers help? Instead, Kevin decided to approach it differently. He started with basic principles, using simple math and his own intuition about how numbers behaved. He drew diagrams on paper, worked through equations by hand, and thought about the problem in ways that felt natural to him. 2 weeks later, Kevin had his answer. It wasn't just a solution. It was an elegant proof that showed why the problem had seemed impossible to solve using conventional methods. He had found a shortcut that no one else had thought to look for. When Kevin submitted his solution, the response from the aliens was immediate and alarmed. "How did you solve this without using our computational systems?" Ambassador Zexathara demanded during an emergency communication session. Kevin shrugged. "I just thought about it differently. Sometimes the best way to solve a hard problem is to step back and look at it from a new angle." The ambassador's large eyes seemed to grow even larger. "This is not how civilized species approach intellectual challenges. There are proper methods, established procedures." "Well," Kevin said with a smile, "I guess I'm not very civilized then." While Kevin was dealing with his mathematical breakthrough, Marine Colonel Amy Davis was facing the second test. The aliens had created a military simulation that they claimed would demonstrate the futility of primitive combat tactics against advanced civilizations. The scenario was simple, but brutal. Defend a small outpost against overwhelming enemy forces with limited supplies and no hope of reinforcement. Every species that had faced this test had eventually surrendered when they realized the situation was hopeless. Amy studied the simulation parameters for exactly 10 minutes before she started. Laughing, "What's so funny?" asked Sergeant Mike Torres, her second-in-command for the test. "They're testing us like we're a normal military," Amy said, grinning. But humans don't fight fair. Instead of trying to hold the outpost through conventional defensive tactics, Amy did something the aliens had never seen before. She used the environment as a weapon, turning the landscape itself into a trap for the attacking forces. When that wasn't enough, she started psychological warfare, making the enemy forces afraid of what might be waiting for them in every shadow. But the real shock came when Amy's supplies ran low. Instead of rationing them carefully like any sensible commander, she used everything at once in a massive, coordinated attack that no sane military leader would attempt. It was wasteful, dangerous, and completely unpredictable. It also worked perfectly. The simulation ended with Amy's small force not just surviving, but actually winning against impossible odds. The alien observers were speechless. "How?" was all Ambassador Zexathera could manage to say. "You guys think too much," Amy replied. "Sometimes you just have to trust your gut and do something crazy." The third test was given to engineer Carlos Hernandez. The aliens wanted him to design a propulsion system using deliberately limited resources. They expected him to request better materials or more advanced components, like any reasonable engineer would. Carlos looked at the pile of primitive Earth technology they had given him and started building immediately. "Aren't you going to ask for improved materials?" asked the alien observer assigned to watch him. "Why?" Carlos said, not looking up from his work. "This stuff will do fine, but these components are inferior. They will not achieve the efficiency ratings required by galactic standards." Carlos paused in his work and looked up with a confused expression. "Says who?" 3 days later, Carlos had built a propulsion system that not only met galactic efficiency standards, but exceeded them by nearly 40%. He had done it using materials the aliens considered barely functional, and he had done it by completely ignoring every rule of proper engineering the galaxy had established over millions of years. The alien observer filed a report that simply said, "This human appears to be unaware that what he accomplished should be impossible." Council observer Thaisara compiled all the test results in her report to the Galactic Council. She titled it, "The Human Anomaly, a Species That Does Not Recognize Limitations." Members of the Council, she wrote, "I have observed something unprecedented in my centuries of service. The humans consistently approach impossible situations as if they were merely difficult puzzles. They do not seem to understand the concept of insurmountable obstacles. When faced with our mathematical challenge, Human Park solved it by ignoring our advanced tools and using primitive methods combined with intuitive leaps that no rational mind should attempt. When presented with our military scenario, Human Davis achieved victory by discarding all sensible tactical doctrine and improvising solutions that violate every principle of civilized warfare. When given our engineering test, Human Hernandez created superior technology by refusing to accept the limitations of his materials. Most disturbing of all, none of these humans seemed to realize they had accomplished anything unusual. They appeared genuinely confused when we expressed amazement at their achievements. The report concluded with a recommendation that sent shockwaves through the Galactic Council. "I believe we are dealing with a species that fundamentally does not understand the concept of impossibility as other civilizations experience it. This makes them unpredictable in ways that our standard protocols cannot address." Emergency sessions were called on 12 different worlds. For the first time in galactic history, the Council faced a species that consistently exceeded expectations, not through superior technology or intelligence, but through a complete inability to recognize when they should give up. They solve impossible problems by not realizing the problems are impossible, Council member Vexron reported to his homeworld. "This is either the most dangerous trait we have ever encountered, or the most valuable. I am not certain there is a difference." The Galactic Council had tested thousands of species over millions of years. All of them had eventually reached their limits and accepted guidance. None of them had ever looked at an impossible challenge and simply decided to solve it anyway. But humans, it seemed, had never learned that some things couldn't be done. And that realization was starting to terrify the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy. The emergency alert came through all channels at once. Dr. Rachel Kim was eating breakfast when her communication device started screaming with urgent messages. She read the first line and dropped her coffee cup. A massive asteroid was heading straight for New Terra, humanity's first colony world beyond Earth. 2 million people lived there now, and they had less than 6 months before impact. The rock was big enough to crack the planet in half. Within hours, the Galactic Council contacted Earth with an offer. "We can divert this asteroid using our advanced gravitational manipulation technology," Ambassador Zexafara announced. "However, this assistance comes with conditions. Humanity must agree to permanent council oversight of all future space activities and technological development." Dr. Kim stared at the alien on her screen. She was the head of Earth's Emergency Response Division, and she had dealt with disasters before, but this was different. This was her daughter's new homeworld, along with millions of other people. "What if we refuse your conditions?" she asked. "Then we cannot in good conscience provide assistance. The asteroid will impact New Terra, and your colony will be destroyed. This is unfortunate, but we cannot violate council protocols." Rachel felt anger building in her chest. The aliens were basically holding 2 million people hostage to force Earth into submission. Well, they could take their ultimatum and shove it. "We decline your assistance," she said firmly. The ambassador's already pale face went even whiter. "Dr. Kim, I do not think you understand. Without our help, your colony world will be completely destroyed." "I understand perfectly. We'll handle it ourselves." "That is impossible. The asteroid is too large, moving too fast. No civilization has ever successfully diverted an object of this size without gravitational manipulation technology." Rachel smiled grimly. "Then I guess we'll be the first." The call ended with the ambassador looking genuinely shocked. Rachel immediately got on the communication system to Earth Command. "This is Dr. Kim. I need to speak with someone about nuclear weapons." "A lot of nuclear weapons." Captain Tony Williams got the call 3 days later. He was commanding a cargo ship called Pioneer's Dream, hauling supplies between Earth and the outer colonies. It wasn't a military vessel, wasn't designed for combat, and definitely wasn't built for the mission they were asking him to undertake. "You want me to do what?" he said, looking at the mission briefing with disbelief. "Fly directly into the path of a planet-killing asteroid and detonate nuclear warheads to change its course," General Hayes explained calmly. "The math says it should work if we hit it at the right angle with enough force." Tony laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. "General, this cargo ship has about as much armor as a tin can. One piece of asteroid debris could punch right through us. That's why we're mounting extra shielding and giving you the best crew we can find." Engineer Stephanie Brooks volunteered specifically for this mission. Tony knew Stephanie's reputation. She was crazy enough to try anything and smart enough to make it work. If she thought this plan could succeed, maybe it wasn't completely suicidal. "What does the council think about our plan?" he asked. General Hayes's expression darkened. "They think we're going to get ourselves killed and prove that humans are too reckless for galactic civilization. They've stationed observer ships at a safe distance to record our failure." "Great, no pressure then." 2 weeks later, Pioneer's Dream was racing through space toward an appointment with the largest asteroid anyone had ever tried to move. The cargo hold had been converted into a weapons bay, carrying enough nuclear warheads to level a continent. It should have been terrifying, but somehow Tony felt oddly calm. "Contact in 30 minutes, reported Stephanie from the engineering station. She had stripped down half the ship's systems to boost power to the shields and engines. "Everything looks good so far." The asteroid filled their forward screen like a small moon. It was massive, dark, and covered in craters from millions of years of collisions. Tony could see why the aliens thought this was impossible. The thing was just too big for any reasonable plan to work. Good thing humans weren't always reasonable. "Beginning final approach," Tony announced. "Stephanie, how are we looking?" "All systems green. The nuclear package is armed and ready. We just need to get close enough to plant it in that big crater on the north side, and then get away fast enough that we don't get vaporized by our own bomb." Tony added, "That's the tricky part." They dropped down into the asteroid's gravity well, flying between house-sized chunks of rock that had broken away from the main body. Tony had to manually pilot the ship through the debris field. because their automated systems couldn't react fast enough to the constantly changing conditions. 10 minutes to deployment, Stephanie called out. Wait, we have a problem. Alarms started blaring throughout the ship. Tony could see the issue immediately on his displays. The asteroid's rotation was creating electrical interference that was shutting down their targeting systems. Can you fix it? Tony asked. Not with conventional methods. The interference is too strong. Stephanie paused, and Tony could almost hear her thinking. But I might be able to reroute power through the life support systems to boost our signal strength. Won't that kill us? Only if we take longer than about 5 minutes. Tony made the decision without hesitation. Do it. The lights dimmed as Stephanie redirected power from every non-essential system on the ship. The temperature started dropping immediately as the heating system shut down. They had 5 minutes of air left, and they were flying blind through a debris field around a giant rock, trying to plant a nuclear bomb. It was exactly the kind of situation that should have been impossible to survive. Targeting system back online, Stephanie shouted. I can see the crater. Deploying nuclear package now. The bomb detached from their ship and began its descent toward the asteroid's surface. Tony immediately fired the engines at full power, racing to get clear of the blast zone. Detonation in 30 seconds, Stephanie reported. We're not going to make it to minimum safe distance. Then we'll just have to hope the shielding holds, Tony said grimly. The nuclear explosion lit up space like a new star being born. The shockwave hit Pioneer's Dream like a giant fist, throwing the ship tumbling through space. Systems failed throughout the vessel, and for a terrifying moment Tony thought they were going to break apart. But Stephanie's modifications held. The ship survived, battered but intact. More importantly, their instruments showed that the asteroid's course had changed. Not by much, but enough. Instead of hitting New Terra directly, it would pass safely through empty space. The communication system crackled to life with a transmission from the Galactic Council observer ships. Human vessel, this is Council Ship Serenity. How is your ship still functional? Our calculations indicated that you should have been destroyed by the explosion. Tony looked at Stephanie, who was already working to restore their damaged systems. She shrugged and gave him a tired smile. We got lucky, Tony replied. Luck is not an acceptable explanation for surviving impossible conditions. What modifications did you make to your vessel? Stephanie took the microphone. We just used what we had available. When the first plan didn't work, we tried something else. There was a long pause before the alien responded. You redirected life support power to boost your targeting system, knowing it would leave you without adequate life support reserves. Yeah, so? This decision should have resulted in your deaths. No rational crew would have attempted such a modification. Good thing we're not that rational, Tony said with a grin. The transmission ended abruptly. Later, Tony would learn that the Council observers filed a report, describing the human response to the asteroid crisis as typical human disregard for logical limitations resulting in inexplicable success. Dr. Rachel, Kim received the mission success report while she was in her office on Earth. She had been awake for 3 days straight, coordinating the asteroid mission and managing the political fallout from refusing alien assistance. Her communication system buzzed with an incoming message from the Galactic Council. Ambassador Zexithera appeared on her screen, looking more shaken than she had ever seen the alien. Dr. Kim, the Council requires an explanation. Your species has just accomplished something that violates our understanding of physical limitations. We moved an asteroid. It's not that complicated. You used primitive nuclear weapons and a cargo vessel to divert an object that should have required gravitational manipulation technology to move. This should have been impossible. Rachel rubbed her tired eyes. Ambassador, with all due respect, you people seem to spend a lot of time deciding what's impossible. We prefer to figure out what's possible instead. The communication ended with the ambassador looking like someone had just told her that gravity worked backwards. That night, emergency council sessions were held on 50 different worlds. The topic was always the same. Humanity had once again treated an impossible situation as merely difficult, and their casual success was creating panic throughout galactic civilization. Council strategist Vex Marai issued a classified report that would change the course of galactic politics. The humans do not recognize impossibility the way civilized species do. They treat world-ending Dr. Nathan Cross had always been good at reading people. As Earth's leading expert on alien psychology, he spent his days trying to understand how different species thought and behaved. But lately, he was starting to realize that the real mystery wasn't how aliens thought. It was how humans thought differently from everyone else in the galaxy. It started with small things. During cultural exchange programs, alien students would ask questions that seemed obvious to humans but apparently weren't obvious at all to other species. When human student Alex Jordan solved a basic physics problem in class, 3 alien students filed formal complaints claiming the solution was impossible. But it's just basic energy conservation, Alex had explained to Dr. Cross later. You redirect the excess energy into a feedback loop and the system stabilizes itself. The aliens say that kind of feedback loop can't work, Dr. Cross replied. Alex shrugged. Well, it does work. I built one in my garage last weekend. That was when Dr. Cross realized something important. The aliens weren't saying Alex's solution was wrong. They were saying it was impossible to think of that solution in the first place. Intelligence Officer Maya Patel brought Dr. Cross the breakthrough he needed. She had been quietly intercepting Galactic Council communications for months, and what she found changed everything. Dr. Cross, you need to see this, Maya said, spreading classified alien documents across his desk. I've been analyzing their internal communications about humanity, and there's a pattern you're going to find very interesting. The documents were full of alien reports about human behavior, but they all said the same thing in different ways. Humans consistently did things that other species considered literally unthinkable. Look at this report from their educational department. Maya pointed to one document. They tested human children alongside alien children of similar age. The alien children learned exactly what they were taught and never questioned the basic principles. The human children kept asking what-if questions that made their teachers uncomfortable. Dr. Cross read through the report with growing amazement. According to the aliens, human children had asked questions like, what if gravity worked sideways? And what if time went backwards? These weren't just silly questions, they were the kind of questions that led to breakthrough discoveries. But to alien minds, they were almost frightening. There's more, Maya continued. Look at this psychological profile of our species. The alien document was titled Psychological Barriers in Galactic Civilization, and it contained a shocking revelation. Every species in the galaxy developed what the aliens called cognitive limits as they matured. These were mental barriers that prevented them from even considering certain types of solutions to problems. According to the report, these barriers were considered essential for a stable civilization. They prevented species from attempting dangerous or destructive experiments, and they helped maintain social order by ensuring that everyone thought within accepted parameters. But humans, the report noted with obvious concern, never developed these barriers at all. Dr. Cross, Maya said quietly, I think we've been looking at this all wrong. The aliens aren't afraid of our technology or our weapons. They're afraid of the way we think. Dr. Cross spent the next week reviewing every interaction between humans and aliens since first contact. The pattern was clear once you knew what to look for. Every time humans exceeded alien expectations, it wasn't because they were smarter or had better tools. It was because they thought about problems in ways that other species had been trained not to think. The revelation came together when Dr. Cross was watching footage of the asteroid mission. Captain Tony Williams and engineer Stephanie Brooks had done something that every alien species considered impossible. They had used their life support system as part of their targeting system, knowing it might kill them. No rational species would attempt such a modification, the alien observer had said. But that was exactly the point. Humans weren't bound by the same definition of rational that limited other species. When faced with an impossible problem, other species would accept the impossibility and look for help. Humans would just try something different. Dr. Cross called an emergency meeting with Earth's leadership to share his discovery. Ladies and gentlemen, he announced to the assembled military and political leaders, I believe I know why the Galactic Council is afraid of us. It's not what we do, it's how we think about doing it. He explained his findings to the group, watching their faces as the implications sank in. Every other species in the galaxy has been taught to recognize certain types of problems as unsolvable, he continued. They develop mental blocks that prevent them from even considering solutions that might be dangerous or unconventional. But humans never developed those blocks. General Hayes leaned forward. Are you saying we're more creative than they are? I'm saying we're more willing to try things that might not work. Other species see impossible problems and accept them as impossible. We see impossible problems and treat them as puzzles to solve. Captain Lisa Hayes, now Earth's chief military liaison with the aliens, had been quiet during the briefing. Finally, she spoke up. Dr. Cross, I've been reviewing the classified alien archives we captured last month. There's something else you should know. She activated a holographic display showing internal Galactic Council documents. They've been studying us for longer than they admitted. These documents go back almost 50 years. They've been watching our technological development and comparing it to other species at similar stages. The documents showed comparison charts between humanity and dozens of other civilizations. In every category, technological advancement, problem-solving ability, adaptability to crisis situations, humans scored far above average. But the most disturbing chart was labeled Limitation Recognition Response. Every other species showed a steep curve as they developed advanced civilization. The more advanced they became, the more they accepted certain fundamental limitations as unchangeable facts of reality. It was considered a sign of wisdom and maturity. The human curve was completely flat. No matter how advanced human technology became, humans continued to treat all limitations as temporary obstacles to overcome. There's a classified council debate transcript here, Captain Hayes continued. They're not just studying us anymore. They're trying to decide what to do about us. Dr. Cross read through the transcript with growing alarm. The aliens were divided into two camps. One group wanted to eliminate humanity before they became too dangerous. The other group wanted to study humans to understand how they thought so differently. But both groups agreed on one thing. Humanity represented something completely unprecedented in galactic history. A species that might eventually surpass every other civilization, not through superior technology, but through sheer refusal to accept that some things couldn't be done. Look at this quote from Council Member Thaisara. Captain Hayes pointed to one section of the transcript. She says, "The humans do not appear to understand that certain achievements are meant to be impossible. This suggests they may eventually attempt things that no civilized species should attempt." "What kind of things?" asked General Hayes. Dr. Cross found the answer in another document. The aliens had compiled a list of forbidden research areas, scientific and technological, pursuits that all galactic civilizations had agreed never to investigate because they were too dangerous or because they violated fundamental principles of reality. Humans had already started research in half of those areas without even knowing they were supposed to be forbidden. Time manipulation, dimensional engineering, consciousness transfer, reality modification. Dr. Cross read from the list. "We have active research programs in all of these fields. We're doing it because we think it might be possible, not because we're trying to break galactic law." The room fell silent as everyone absorbed the implications. "So," General Hayes said finally, "we're accidentally researching things that the entire galaxy has agreed are too dangerous to study. And we're doing it because we don't know they're supposed to be impossible." "That's exactly right," Dr. Cross confirmed. "And the aliens are terrified that we might actually succeed." Maya pulled up one final document, a recent Council intelligence report on human research activities. "According to this," she said, "they believe we're less than a century away from breakthrough discoveries in at least 3 forbidden research areas, technologies that could potentially give us capabilities that no other species has ever possessed." Dr. Cross looked around the room at the faces of Earth's leaders. They looked shocked but not frightened. Even learning that they were accidentally pursuing research that terrified the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy, humans were already starting to think about how to solve the problems that discovery might create. "The scariest part about humans," Dr. Cross said quietly, "isn't that we're aggressive or destructive. It's that we don't understand the difference between difficult and impossible. And now we know that the aliens have been studying us specifically because of that trait." The meeting ended with plans to investigate which human research projects might be causing the most concern among alien civilizations. But even as they planned their response, Dr. Cross could see his colleagues. The ultimatum arrived on a Tuesday morning, transmitted simultaneously to every government on Earth. Ambassador Zexathara appeared on screens worldwide, But this time the aliens' usual calm demeanor was completely gone. "People of Earth," the ambassador began, "the Galactic Council has reached a final decision regarding your species. You have 30 days to accept our terms, or face the combined military forces of 12 galactic civilizations." Admiral Chris Parker was in his office at Earth Defense Command when the message came through. He had been expecting something like this ever since Dr. Cross's briefing about human thinking patterns. The aliens had finally decided that humanity was too dangerous to leave alone. "The terms are simple," the ambassador continued. "Accept permanent technological limitations overseen by council inspectors. Cease all research in areas designated as forbidden by galactic law. Submit to educational programs designed to help your species develop proper limitation recognition. In return, you will be granted protected status within our galactic community." Admiral Parker turned off the transmission and immediately called an emergency meeting of Earth's military leadership. Within hours, the top commanders from every nation were gathered in the secure conference room deep beneath the Pentagon. "Well," said General Martinez, "I guess we knew this was coming. What are our options?" "Honestly?" Admiral Parker looked around the table. "From a conventional military standpoint, we don't have any. 12 civilizations with technology thousands of years ahead of ours. We can't fight that and win. So we surrender?" asked General Chen. "No," Admiral Parker said firmly. "We do what humans always do when faced with an impossible situation. We change the rules of the game." While the military leaders were planning Earth's response, Dr. Elena Rodriguez was working on a very different kind of strategy. As Earth's leading expert on alien technology, she had been studying captured alien equipment for months. What she had discovered would change everything. "The problem with trying to fight the aliens," she explained to her research team, "is that we're thinking about this like a conventional war. But what if we don't fight them at all?" Engineer Ben Clark looked up from the alien device he was examining. "What do you mean?" "I mean, what if we demonstrate that trying to control human behavior creates more problems than it solves? What if we show them that the very act of trying to limit us is impossible?" Ben grinned. He had been working with Dr. Rodriguez long enough to recognize that look in her eyes. She had an idea that was either brilliant or completely insane. "What are you thinking?" he asked. "I'm thinking we should give them exactly what they're afraid of. We should show them what happens when humans don't understand that something is supposed to be impossible." Over the next 2 weeks, while the Galactic Council fleet approached Earth, Dr. Rodriguez and her team did something unprecedented. They took apart every piece of alien technology they had, captured and rebuilt it in ways that no alien engineer would ever consider. They didn't just copy the technology, they improved it using methods that violated every principle of safe engineering the galaxy had, established over millions of years. They combined incompatible systems, bypassed safety protocols, and created hybrid devices that should have been impossible to build. And somehow, it all worked. "Dr. Rodriguez," Ben said on the morning before the alien fleet was due to arrive, "I think we've created something that's going to terrify them more than any weapon could." He was right. The hybrid alien-human technology they had built didn't just work better than the original alien systems. It worked in ways that the aliens had been trained never to. Admiral Parker received the final piece of the plan when Captain Sandra Lee returned from her reconnaissance mission. She had taken a small scout ship to observe the approaching alien fleet, and what she found was exactly what they had hoped for. "Admiral," she reported, "the alien fleet is impressive, but they're operating according to standard galactic military doctrine. They expect us to respond according to established patterns of behavior for a primitive species facing superior force, which means they expect us to either surrender immediately or fight conventionally and lose quickly," Admiral Parker said. "Exactly. They're not prepared for any other response." The next morning, as the alien fleet took position around Earth, Admiral Parker opened communications with the Council forces. "Council Fleet, this is Admiral Parker representing Earth. We have considered your ultimatum, and we respectfully decline." The response came immediately from Fleet Commander Vexquill, whose voice carried the confidence of someone who had conquered dozens of worlds. "Admiral Parker, you cannot seriously intend to resist our forces. We have overwhelming technological and numerical superiority. Surrender now, and your species will be treated with mercy." "Commander, I think there's been a misunderstanding. We're not planning to fight you." There was a pause. Then you accept our terms? No, we're going to do something else entirely. That was when Dr. Rodriguez's team activated their hybrid technology. All around Earth, systems that combined human ingenuity with alien engineering came online. The aliens had given humanity just enough examples of their technology to reverse engineer the basic principles. But they had never imagined that humans would immediately start modifying those principles in ways that no sane engineer would attempt. The first sign that something was wrong came when the alien fleet's sensors started reporting impossible readings from Earth's surface. Their instruments detected energy signatures that couldn't exist according to galactic physics, and technological signatures that violated fundamental engineering principles. "What are you doing down there?" Fleet Commander Vexquill demanded. "We're demonstrating why trying to control human technological development might not be a good idea," Admiral Parker replied calmly. The second demonstration came when engineer Ben Clark activated the modified communication system his team had built. Instead of simply sending messages to the alien fleet, the system did something the aliens had never seen before. It started rewriting the communication protocols in real time, adapting and changing in ways that made it impossible for the aliens to block or jam. "Your communication system is modifying itself," Fleet Commander Vexquill reported with obvious alarm. "This is not possible with any known technology." "It's not possible with any known alien technology," Admiral Parker corrected. "But we don't always follow the same rules you do." The third demonstration was the most unsettling of all. Dr. Rodriguez had modified captured alien sensor equipment to scan the Council fleet itself. But instead of simply gathering information, the modified sensors started sending data back to the alien ships in ways that caused their own systems to behave unpredictably. That the alien computers started receiving information they couldn't process according to their programming. The data wasn't harmful, but it was structured in ways that violated the logical frameworks the alien systems were designed to understand. It was like showing a calculator a problem that required imagination to solve. "Admiral Parker," Fleet Commander Vexquill's voice now carried a note of genuine concern. "Your actions are causing system instabilities throughout our fleet. You must cease these activities immediately." "We're not attacking you, Commander. We're just showing you what happens when humans start modifying alien technology without understanding the safety limitations. But these modifications should be impossible. That's exactly our point." The breakthrough came when Dr. Rodriguez activated the final component of their demonstration. She had taken the alien fleet's own scanning data of Earth and fed it back through their modified systems in a recursive loop that created an information feedback pattern unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The alien computers tried to process the data, but couldn't because it contained logical structures that violated their fundamental programming. The data wasn't malicious. It was just organized in ways that alien minds had been trained never to consider. Within hours, the entire Council fleet was experiencing cascading system failures as their own technology tried and failed to process information organized according to human thinking patterns. Admiral Parker, Fleet Commander Vexquill's transmission was now coming through with obvious interference. "We need to discuss a ceasefire immediately. Commander, we haven't fired a single shot. All we've done is demonstrate what happens when humans start modifying alien technology in ways that alien engineers would never attempt." "Yes, and it's causing our systems to malfunction in ways we cannot predict or control. Now imagine what would happen if you tried to put Council observers on our research stations to monitor our technological development." There was a very long pause before the fleet commander responded. "You're saying that any attempt to closely supervise human technological activities would result in this?" "Commander, we modify everything we touch. We can't help it. It's how we think. If you put alien technology near human researchers, we're going to start combining it with our own systems in ways that will probably break both." Dr. Amanda Foster, Earth's newly appointed ambassador to the Galactic Council, joined the communication link from her ship approaching the alien fleet. "Fleet Commander," she said cheerfully, "I'm on my way to attend my first